Volkswagen's third generation Touran aims to offer customers in the compact 7-seat MPV segment a quality, state-of-the-art option that's a little larger, rather more efficient, and a whole lot cleverer than before. You'll choose one because you need it, rather than because you desire it, but in doing so, you get the feeling of having bought into a car that's amongst the very best people carriers of its kind. If you've a family, it's likely that you ideally need a very flexible car, preferably one with up to 7 seats. There's no need for a huge people carrier, but one of those clever, compact 7-seat MPVs would probably suit you just fine. If you're looking for a quality option in this segment, then this car should certainly be high on your wish list. Welcome to the Mark III model Volkswagen Touran. It's part of the largest range of MPVs that any brand can offer, slotting into Volkswagen's lineup just above the boxy Caddy Life model and the 5-seat Golf SV, and just below the brand's much larger Touran and Caravelle people carriers. This, though, is the car that'll be most significant for dealers. On sale since 2003, it's long been a bestseller for the brand, one of the 3 most popular MPVs of its type in Europe, and the best-selling people carrier of all in its home German market. Over 1.9 million Tourans had been sold worldwide by the time this third-generation model was launched in late 2015. But this, as you'd expect, is easily the most advanced version yet, based on the Golf Mark VII, which means it gets the Wolfsburg brand's latest MQB platform. That's important, as this allows the car to be slightly longer and more spacious than before, as well as enabling Volkswagen to include all kinds of clever new technology, things we'll be telling you about in this film. In a Touran, you can breathe climatronically filtered air and watch your children on the dash as you talk to them through the speaker system. As they stream music from their phones and tablets through the infotainment setup, you can be checking the weather at your destination and asking for directions to the cheapest places to park and fuel up. In short, the idea is to provide buyers here with another kind of family MPV experience. Not the cheapest kind, for sure, but one that aims to offer that warm feeling of quality that comes with any carefully considered investment. And all from a car that, in its most frugal guise, can transport up to 7 people, yet in doing so still return a more efficient set of running costs than you get from, say, a 1.2-litre Fiat 500 city car. If that sounds appealing, then stay with me and we'll check this car out. Where previous Tourans felt like more spacious versions of the Golf hatch they were based upon, this Mark III model feels closer to being a slightly smaller version of Volkswagen's bigger Touran MPV. That's thanks not only to its greater interior space, but also to the more sophisticated ride enabled by the compliant 4-link suspension that Volkswagen has designed to sit upon this third-generation model's lighter, more sophisticated MQB platform. As before, the driving position is quite commanding. True, it might not be SUV-like, but it positions you noticeably higher than you would be in an ordinary hatchback, offering a better view both of the road ahead and around the glassy cabin, which certainly makes parking easier. In this model, you sit 625mm above street level, which, to give you some perspective, is 148mm higher up than you'd be sitting in a Golf. It feels a little sportier this time round too, thanks to the fact that the steering wheel is now more upright. Don't get carried away though, this still isn't an MPV aimed at people prioritising driving dynamics. Instead, it concentrates on the things family folk really care about, serving up the kind of solid, reassuring driving experience they'll be looking for, with direct, speed-sensitive electric power steering and reasonable, though not class-leading, levels of refinement. Through the bends, body roll is well judged, and a standard XDS electronic differential lock helps you get the traction down. If you want the whole experience to be more rewarding, then there's the option of the driver profile selection system that's standard on plusher models. Via Eco, Sport and Normal modes, this setup enables you to tweak steering, throttle response and, on automatic models, gear shift timings to suit the way you want to drive. There's also the option of firmer sport suspension, but if you're looking at that, you'd be better served by specifying Volkswagen's DCC dynamic chassis control system. That's one of those setups that individually adjusts the dampers at each wheel to give better body control, improve ride comfort, or try and achieve a workable combination between the two, should the driver override the normal setting and select either sport or comfort modes. In our experience, normal seems to represent the best compromise, which to some extent rather defeats the point of specifying DCC in the first place. I think if it was me, I'd rather spend the extra money on the improved version of Volkswagen's Park Assist system that you'll find on the options list for this car. This can guide you not only into parallel parking spaces, but also those at right angles to the direction of traffic. All very Volkswagen. As are the engines on offer, a selection of the very best of Volkswagen's current crop. The entry-level 1.2-litre TSI petrol unit might not seem well suited to the job of moving a 1.6-tonne 7-seater people carrier, but thanks to a turbo and 175 Newton-meters of torque, its 110 PS actually copes better than you might think. 62 miles an hour, 11.3 seconds away from rest, on the way to 117 miles an hour. The same comment is also applicable to the other TSI petrol option, a 1.4-litre unit that puts out 150 PS and improves those figures to 8.9 seconds and 130 miles an hour. Most Touran buyers, though, will be wanting a diesel, probably the 1.6-litre TDI unit now boasting 110 PS. This engine isn't especially refined or very much faster than before. Rest to 62 miles an hour takes 11.9 seconds on the way to 116 miles an hour. But it is notably more economic, more of which later. It can also be optionally paired to Volkswagen's latest 7-speed DSG automatic gearbox, which further improves cleanliness and frugality. Unfortunately, the pokier 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel can only work with the older 6-speed DSG Auto box, which has the opposite effect. Better to get the ordinary 6-speed manual transmission with this engine, in which guise the Touran manages 62 miles an hour in 9.3 seconds en route to 129 miles an hour. If you choose the pokiest 2-litre TDI 190 PS flagship model, you have to have the 6-speed DSG box, but it clicks through the ratios pretty rapidly, making the 62 mile an hour benchmark in just 6.1 seconds, enough to make this the fastest MPV in this section of the market, and one of the torquiest too. Whichever 2-litre TDI variant you choose, you get 340 Newton-meters of pulling power, enough to enable this Touran to tow up to 1.8 tonnes. If that's the kind of thing you have in mind, then we'd recommend that you also tick the box for the superb trailer assist feature, which automatically steers the car for you to take the hassle out of those awkward low-speed trailer positioning manoeuvres. Stylistic surprises are rarely forthcoming when Volkswagen unveils an MPV. So it is that this third-generation Touran borrows further from the design language already used by its maker on everything from a Polo Super Mini to a people-carrying Touran. The German designers have managed the unusual feat of changing every body panel, yet still creating a look that nonetheless appears broadly the same as its predecessor, if cleaner and more purposeful at both front and rear ends, with a sleek 0.29 CD drag factor. To be fair, the increased length, extra width and slightly reduced height of this Mark III Touran do give it a slightly sportier look than before, at least from the perspective of previous model buyers. All these things are relative though. You don't buy a people carrier to make a style statement, but first and foremost for reasons of practicality, something this rejuvenated design is now better placed to provide. That's thanks to the high-tech Golf-style MQB platform underpinnings that lie beneath the precise, carefully contoured lines. These have allowed for the creation of this slightly bigger, significantly lighter and more sophisticated car that, as we'll see, also uses its interior space more efficiently. The main aesthetic changes this time round can be found here at the front, where the cross pieces of the radiator grille extend naturally into slimmer headlamps that here have a more three-dimensional shape and can optionally feature full LED technology. Finely executed details include this slim lower breather opening, which aims to try and accentuate the car's extra width and relatively low centre of gravity. In profile, you're more likely to notice the extra 130mm of length that's been added to this model, emphasised by two upper creases. This carefully contoured shoulder line starts above the front wheel arch and extends to the D-pillar, sitting above a lower character line into which the door handles have been precisely placed. Lower down, these angled sills add a bit of shape to the flanks, and the window design looks a bit smarter too, helped by this glossy black central B-pillar and this gradually tapering rear roofline. At the rear, that character line I was talking about flows through these redesigned narrower tail lamp clusters into the usual centrally positioned Volkswagen badge. These lights get a more distinctive nighttime signature, especially if you order them in LED form, and they sit above the number plate frame's downward-facing trapezoidal shape that adds to the feeling of width. Further down, the reflectors are positioned low and wide, and rounding off the rear section is a stylised black diffuser. All very nice, but it's practicalities we're primarily here to look at. It's time to see if this Touran could really cut the mustard in the muddy dog, smelly gym kit and family holiday-friendly world of the compact MPV. Could you really live with one? Let's see. As is now usual in this segment, there's the option of an electrically operable tailgate you can raise by waving your foot beneath the bumper if you approach the car key in pocket laden down with bags. The hatch opens to reveal a cabin in which every inch of space has been maximised. True, there's not very much of that with all 7 seats in place, just 137 litres, enough for a couple of carefully positioned small overnight bags. Still, that's the case with any car in this class. There's only so much you can squeeze into 4.5 metres of length, and Volkswagen has managed to free up about twice as much space with the car in this configuration as you get with a key rival like Ford's Grand C-Max. There are some nice design touches too. This panel on the inside of the tailgate that houses the warning triangle, for example, and an underfloor compartment that neatly swallows the parcel shelf when not in use. You also get a bag hook. Most models have a 12-volt socket, and you can specify this neat pull-out torch. Now, this latter feature is something that you'll be glad of if you get yourself stranded with a puncture in the dark, since in that scenario, you'll probably have to fiddle with a tyre repair kit, given that Volkswagen doesn't provide any kind of spare wheel as standard in this car. Much of the time, of course, you're not going to need these 2 extra chairs. Time to try the redesigned fold-flat seating system that can ultimately create a perfectly level, continuously flat floor in a matter of seconds. If you start by folding down these third-row seats, you'll raise your boot space up to 917 litres, or 743 litres up to the window line, which impressively is more than you get in a much larger Ford S-Max. That's a capacity you could potentially further increase if you've uncomplaining middle seat occupants prepared to allow you to slide these 3 centre seats right forward. An optional cargo management system compartmentalises the boot area when the seats are in this configuration. Here we've got the luggage restraint partitioning net that many owners will want. Need more room? Well, if the item in question is merely long and thin, like, say, a set of skis, then it may suffice to merely flatten the middle centre row backrest. If, though, you really need to supersize your space, then folding all 3 rear chairs creates that completely flat cargo area that I was talking about, 1,857 litres in size. Now that's not quite as much as you get from Citroën, Peugeot and Renault models in this segment, but it's fractionally more than is offered by this car's most comparable rival, BMW's 2 Series Grand Tourer, and significantly more than Ford's Grand C-Max. This space can be even further extended with this fold flat front passenger seat. It's standard, provided you avoid entry-level trim. This will allow this MPV to swallow items up to 2.7 metres long. A kayak, for example. Talking of seats, these second-row chairs aren't removable in the way that they were in previous generation Touran models, and in the way that they would be in, say, a rival Renault Grand Scenic. Still, that's a level of practicality this car doesn't now aspire to. Volkswagen can't envisage owners of this car wanting to lug seats in and out, and they're probably right. Switch your focus from packages to people, and by and large, the space provided is equally class competitive. Access to a cabin that gains plenty of light from the large windows is via side doors that, unlike some obvious rivals, open conventionally rather than sliding back and forth. Once inside, there's decent space for a trio of fully sized adults. As before, the 3 individual seats you get will be a touch small for grown-up people over familiar with the offerings of Colonel Sanders, but otherwise you should be okay. Now they're conventional in their operation too, which means that there's no seat-eating seat style mechanism for folding away the middle pew, then moving these outer 2 in slightly for greater 2-up comfort. That's the kind of thing you get in rival Ford Grand C-Max or Vauxhall Zafira Tourer models. Still, second-row occupants will be much better off in this Touran than they would be in BMW's rival 2 Series Grand Tourer. The BMW has a less flexible single bench seat and the kind of awkwardly raised centre transmission tunnel that, thankfully, you don't have to worry about here. This third generation Touran offers 40mm more of extra legroom thanks to its extra 113mm of wheelbase. But if that's not enough, these seats feature the kind of backwards and forwards sliding mechanism you'd expect from an MPV, adjustable here over a range of 200mm. The seat backs can also be reclined through 3 positions for greater comfort on longer journeys. Now it's also worth knowing that this Mark III model's extra 41mm of body width makes it possible to make full use of the Isofix fastenings and fit 3 child seats next to each other, something that rather surprisingly few other rivals can manage. For extra comfort, heated seats are optional, as is a special 3-zone climate control system we'd recommend that uses clever filtering technology to improve air quality by stopping allergens and pollutants from entering the car. As for practical touches, well, you don't get the underfloor storage compartments you'd find on a Citroën or Renault MPV rival, but otherwise most of the expected items are in evidence, plus a few others. Avoid entry-level trim and you get seat back tables, storage pockets and a 12-volt socket so the kids can charge up their media devices. You can specify a panoramic glass roof if you want it, and most owners will want what Volkswagen calls its family pack items, namely side window blinds, electrically activated rear door child locks, and a neat electronic voice amplification system so that front seat folk can more easily talk to passengers behind. You could also specify the optional CarNet Cam Connect app that can connect into a GoPro camera and transmits images from the back of the vehicle onto the centre dash infotainment screen so that parents can keep an eye on what's happening in the rear 2 rows without needing to turn around. The electronic voice amplification and Cam Connect systems will be ideal for communicating with the 3rd row and watching what's happening there. Access to this part of the car is via this quick tilt and slide easy entry function. Unless you're reasonably athletic, you'll find the entry process to be quite tight. But then MPVs of this kind aren't really designed to take large adults at the very back. For that, you'll need Volkswagen's larger Touran model. This area of the car is intended for kids, which is why 2 Isofix child seat attachments are provided here. That said, the extra vehicle length this time round does make this Mark III model Touran a touch more spacious at the very back than its predecessors were, with the result that a couple of fully grown folk could easily cope back here on short trips without lasting claustrophobia. Occupants are provided cup holders, storage compartments, this elasticated strap and use of a 12-volt socket. Let's go up front, which is really the area of this car we think will particularly impress potential buyers. Avoid entry-level trim and you get supportive comfort seats with lumbar adjustment, these positioning you in front of a dashboard that's certainly a cut above what's provided by most rivals. Its upper part is fashioned from soft slush moulded material that feels as expensive to the touch as the smooth leather facings and chrome finishing provided for most of the primary controls you'll regularly be using. And build quality from the Wolfsburg factory is predictably solid too, this Touran being one of the relatively few compact Volkswagen models still actually built in Germany. True, you could say that this cabin lacks the high-tech ambience of, say, a rival Citroën Grand C4 Picasso, but that's not to say it doesn't have its sophisticated touches. Take the infotainment touchscreen, controlled from a 6.5-inch display. You can upgrade to 8 inches in size if you pay more for the top Discover Navigation Pro system. Either way, it works with neat proximity sensor touch functionality that hides certain menus and controls until your finger's near the screen, at which point they suddenly appear ready to be operated. The usual DAB stereo, Bluetooth phone and car informational functions are all clearly accessible. And there's a Think Blue driver training system included to help you drive more frugally. If you specify any version of that Discover navigation system I was talking about, you get a brilliantly helpful CarNet guide and inform setup that gives you in-car online access to a whole range of useful journeying information. Everything from traffic news, weather and news feeds to information on fuel and parking prices in your place of destination. Here we've been trying that and all the functionality of Volkswagen's optional App Connect technology. Via this, you can integrate with the latest Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and MirrorLink systems that will enable you to duplicate the functionality of your smartphone handset onto the infotainment screen and access selected apps. Enough on infotainment. What about the day-to-day practicalities of living with this Touran? Well, ahead of you, the 3-spoke steering wheel has also been redesigned, and as before, adjusts for both reach and rake, which, in concert with the height-adjustable seat, makes it easy to find a comfortable driving position. With this accomplished, you're well placed to view the usual clear pair of Volkswagen dials. Avoid entry-level trim and you'll find these separated by a neat multifunction 3.5-inch TFT display that uses the same carousel-style graphics system as you'll find on the centre dash screen. As for practicality, well yes, that's been well thought through with a plethora of storage compartments. There are up to 47 of these apparently, with this tally also including more cup holders than you'd find in the Real Madrid trophy room. The two most obvious storage areas are this deep storage box between the front seats with its height adjustable top and the area in front of the gear stick that provides both 12-volt and USB sockets. Plus there's a cooled glove box big enough to take a tablet, directly above which is a closable storage compartment primarily designed for various items of media kit. You also get deep door bins, a small dash top storage area, and small cubbies to the right of the steering column, a higher one on the dash and a lower one by your knee. Avoid entry-level trim and you also get these rather small under-seat drawers. And if you avoid the temptation to specify the huge glass panoramic roof, you get these useful roof-mounted boxes, a smaller one in front and a larger one behind. Expect to pay somewhere in the £22,000 to £30,000 bracket for your Touran, a compact MPV that isn't too compact and which in our market comes only with 7 seats. If you're shopping at the foot of the range and don't cover many miles, don't automatically tick the box for the volume 1.6 litre TDI diesel before checking out the 1.2 litre TSI petrol variant that'll save you around £1,500 up front and will be pretty frugal, sipping from cheaper green pump fuel. We should point out, though, that the 1.2 litre engine is the only one in the range that can't be paired with one of Volkswagen's super smooth DSG auto gearboxes, a £1,300 option. The 2 litre diesel models get a 6-speed DSG unit, but with other engines, you're offered a more efficient 7-speeder. Time for a few value observations based on those figures, and I'll start from a Volkswagen range perspective. On a model-for-model basis, one of these will cost you around £4,500 more than a comparable but considerably less practical Golf Estate. You may well be aware that this is one of 5 different MPV designs that the brand offers. The company's people-carrying range beginning with the boxier, more van-orientated Caddy Life model. That's a car that in comparably engined 7-seat form could save you as much as £5,000 over a Touran in standard form or around £2,500 in lengthened maxi guise. If you want something less LCV-like, then your dealer will wheel out the sleeker Golf SV, but that model comes only with 5 seats. Otherwise, you'll be looking at a much larger MPV than this Touran, though that could be tempting. Volkswagen's big Touran model has much more space for adult seating in its third row, and its premium over this Touran isn't that great, between £1,500 to £3,000, depending on the variant you're looking at. A Touran would be less efficient and more ponderous to drive, though. Comments even more applicable to the van-based Caravelle model that sits at the top of Volkswagen's people-carrying lineup and costs from around £37,000 or around £30,000 in more basic transporter shuttle guise. After that brief run-through, you can probably see why the Touran is the Wolfsburg brand's best-selling MPV model. In terms of size, price and convenience, it appeals to the widest audience of buyers, though of course these people are also being targeted by a range of other mainstream brands, many of whom will offer you their products for less money. But just how much less? Perhaps not as much as you might think, though the exact figures depend a lot on the engine that you're looking at. In the volume 1.6 litre TDI diesel guise that many will want, this Touran will cost you just over £3,000 more than equivalent versions of MPVs like Ford's Grand C-Max, Renault's Grand Scenic, Citroen's Grand C4 Picasso, Vauxhall's Zafira Tourer and Peugeot's 5008. Compare equivalent versions of any of these people carriers to a Touran in base petrol or 2 litre diesel guise, though, and in most cases you'll find that this Volkswagen's price premium narrows to no more than around £1,500, much of which you'll get back in higher residual values when trade-in time comes. Now, we should mention that there are more budget-branded contenders in this segment that could save you a lot more than the models that I've just mentioned. With an equivalent Toyota Verso or Kia Carens, you could be making a saving of up to £5,000 on an equivalent Touran. But then they depreciate faster and you won't be getting the kind of space, flexibility and technology that's on offer here. We think that prospective Touran buyers are more likely to be looking at the other premium choice in this segment, BMW's 2 Series Grand Tourer, an MPV that's been almost identically priced against this Volkswagen, but which isn't quite as spacious and practical inside. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a Touran that you want, then you're going to need to know just how generous the Wolfsburg brand has been when it comes to standard equipment. Well, let's see. Even entry-level S trim gets you the composition media system with its 6.5-inch touchscreen. Now, via this, you'll access an 8-speaker DAB stereo system with Bluetooth phone connectivity, an SD card reader and a USB connection. You get an old-fashioned CD player too, which isn't always included as standard on cars these days. Volkswagen also throws in roof rails and an XDS electronic differential lock for improved traction and handling. Would have liked to have seen a spare wheel of some kind too, but unfortunately, as is depressingly common these days, you're stuck, as standard, with one of those fiddly tyre repair kits. Otherwise, included kit really just covers the basics that you'd expect for this kind of money. Things like air conditioning, driver's seat height adjustment, all-round electric windows and mirrors, and a multifunction trip computer. Most buyers, though, will want to find the relatively affordable extra premium to upgrade themselves to the mid-range SE trim level that we're trying in this instance. We'd suggest you do that because otherwise you'll have to forgo a lot of the practical interior features that really make this Touran what it is. Things like a fold-flat front passenger seat for long loads, under-seat drawers up front, and a storage box between the front seats with a height-adjustable lid. Plus, the kids will thank you for the SE model's second-row provision of seat-back tables, storage pockets, and a 12-volt socket, so they can charge up media devices that'll more easily connect into the infotainment system thanks to a multi-device interface. The SE model looks smarter too, courtesy of 16-inch alloy wheels, body-coloured door trim, rear-tinted glass and silver roof rails. And it'll feel much nicer inside too, thanks to a leather-covered steering wheel, decorative dashboard trim inserts and a 3.5-inch colour TFT screen in the instrument binnacle. Plus there's auto headlamps and wipers, an auto dimming rear view mirror, front and rear parking sensors, an alarm and a package of extra safety kit that we'll cover off in a minute. Of course, you could always go further. If budgets permitted, we'd want to look at SE family trim. This, as standard, gives you the so-called family pack items that we'd want to pay extra for on this base SE variant, namely side window blinds, electrically activated rear door child locks and a neat electronic voice amplification system so that front seat folk can more easily talk to passengers behind. Touran SE family buyers also get a huge glass panoramic roof, and the driving experience is improved with adaptive cruise control and Volkswagen's driver profile selection system so that you can tweak steering, throttle and, on auto models, gear change characteristics to suit the mood that you're in. At this level, the infotainment package gets far cleverer with Volkswagen's Discover navigation system and the brand's clever CarNet Guide and Inform setup that gives you in-car online access to a whole range of useful journeying information. Everything from traffic news, weather and news feeds to information on fuel and parking prices in your place of destination. There isn't much that the top-of-the-range SEL trim level can add to this tally, apart from larger 17-inch wheels, front fog lamps, 3-zone climate control and a classier interior with ambient lighting, velour seats and piano black cabin inserts. Volkswagen's clever CarNet App Connect package is also standard at SEL level, but for most Touran buyers this setup will be an option and one well worth having. It allows owners of Apple and Android smartphone handsets to use the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and MirrorLink systems that mean you can duplicate the functionality of your phone on the dashboard infotainment display and access selected apps in car. Also standard for SEL buyers and optional across the rest of the range is what is probably our favourite feature on this car, the CarNet Cam Connect app that, as a parent, quite literally gives you eyes in the back of your head. If you've one of those natty GoPro cameras, then using the App Connect package, you simply download a free app from the Volkswagen website and connect in the camera. Using MirrorLink, it'll cleverly transmit images from the back of the vehicle onto the central dash infotainment touchscreen for you to view as you drive, before you bellow forth with suitable admonition using the electronic voice amplification system I mentioned earlier. Brilliant. Of course, there's more chance of your offspring behaving on longer journeys if they're distracted. You can talk to your dealer about a travel and comfort system that'll give you the base to place tablets behind the front seat headrests so the children can watch films while on the move. As for other options, well, all the electronic trickery I've been talking about will be better displayed on the dash if you upgrade to the optional Discover Navigation Pro system's larger 8-inch screen. As for practicalities, well, we'd want to look at the usual mud flaps and carpet mats and the electrically powered tailgate, which can be opened by waving your foot beneath the bumper if you approach the car laden down with bags. For the boot, we'd like this car's luggage restraint net partitioning. Plus, we'd probably add a rear seal cover along with the cargo management system that compartmentalises the boot area, and possibly also the extra cost removable lamp that clips into the boot, acts as a torch, and is supplied along with a useful 230-volt socket in the boot area. As an MPV buyer, you can't be too practical, can you? Other optional niceties include power folding mirrors, LED tail lamps, keyless entry, full Vienna leather trim, lovely ambient lighting and heat for the steering wheel and the front windscreen to make those icy mornings a little more bearable. For such times, there are also 2 winter packs that give you things like heated seats, headlamp washers and heated washer jets. Aesthetic touches include a range of alloy wheels with rims 16, 17 or 18 inches in size, plus as usual there's the option of various metallic or pearl effect paint colours. And you can talk to your dealer about the usual roof racks and cycle carriers. As for driving stuff, well, more enthusiastic Touran owners will want to look at the DCC dynamic chassis control setup that allows you to set the ride up to suit the road you're on and adds an extra comfort option to the driver profile selection system. It's a better alternative than the firmer sport suspension option. And beyond that, well, LED headlamps with washers and dynamic cornering lighting would be nice to have, as would the park assist feature that can automatically steer you into the tightest spaces and would certainly be useful, perhaps in concert with the optional rear view camera. If you specify the optional swivelling tow bar, then you'll want this setup to come complete with Volkswagen's brilliant trailer assist feature, via which you can manoeuvre your Touran via the mirror adjustment switch as it steers itself to park whatever you're towing. If I were a caravanner, that feature alone would sell me this car. On to safety, an area where Volkswagen now claims class leadership with this model. All Tourans get twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus a driver's knee bag. There are Isofix child seat fastenings on all second and third row seats. And across the range, the Wolfsburg brand has installed a clever automatic post-collision braking system that automatically brakes the car down to 6 miles an hour after a collision. So if, say, someone hits you and, understandably, you go to pieces, the car will automatically sort itself out. Avoid entry-level trim and you also get a front assist system that at speed scans the road ahead as you drive for potential accident hazards, warning you if one is detected and automatically braking if necessary. You get that same kind of functionality at urban speeds too, as part of a city emergency braking system included as part of the front assist package. On top of this, there are the usual electronic systems to try and ensure that neither of these features will ever be needed. That means ESC stability control, an ASR traction control system, and an EDL electronic differential lock that allows smooth starts on split friction road surfaces, say if one side of the car is on wet leaves, for example. There's ABS braking, of course, and panic stops will be advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning lights. Hill hold assist stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and there's a tyre pressure loss indicator too. All this has secured for this Touran a top-of-the-shop 5-star Euro NCAP crash safety rating, the organisation recording highly impressive individual safety scores of 88% for adult occupants, 89% for child occupants, 71% for pedestrians and 76% for safety assist. Going further with safety provision in this Volkswagen requires either a really plush trim level or the spending of more cash. But the options available are pretty impressive. Take the ACC Adaptive Cruise Control system that uses radar technology to automatically keep you a safe distance from the vehicle in front. Want even more? Then you could also specify the High Beam Assist feature that will automatically dip your headlights at night in the face of oncoming traffic. And a driver alert system that monitors your driving reactions for drowsiness, prompting you to stop for a restorative coffee if lethargy is detected. Plus, there's a side scan feature that alerts you if, on the move, you're about to dangerously pull out in front of another vehicle, and a lane assist system that warns you if you drift out of your lane on the highway. Opt for side scan and lane assist as a package, and you also get a rear traffic detection system that alerts you if you're reversing out of a space into the path of another car. Top models also get a pre-crash preventative occupant protection package that senses when an impact is imminent, then braces the car to better withstand it by instantly closing the windows and the sunroof if you've specified it. Finally, I'll tell you that across the range, buyers get the option to specify second row side airbags that would bring the total bag tally to 9 and leave the interior of your Touran resembling a bouncy castle if you ever were unfortunate enough to have a crash. All right, so the Touran is practical, but how will its running costs add up? Well, let's see. This time round, the engine range has been upgraded to Euro 6 status, and all the units are impressively clean and frugal, with running cost improvements across the range of up to 19%, all thanks to a series of what Volkswagen calls Blue Motion technology tweaks. Now, these include things like brake energy recuperation and a start-stop system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Like most modern diesels, these units get a particulate filter and inject a urea-based solution called AdBlue into the exhaust gas stream to help clean up emissions. This solution's stored in a tank underneath the bonnet and will need topping up as part of regular servicing. On to the figures. The base 110 PS 1.2 litre TSI petrol variant manages 52.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 126 grams per kilometre of CO2. Despite its extra power, the Pokia 150 PS 1.4 litre TSI model doesn't do too much worse, returning 49.6 miles to the gallon and 133 grams per kilometre of CO2. These are figures that you can improve by about 5% if you go for the optional 7-speed DSG automatic gearbox. With the 1.6 litre TDI 110 PS diesel variant we're trying here, you also get slightly better returns with an automatic, though again the improvement is fractional. A manual 1.6 TDI manages 64.2 miles to the gallon and 116 grams per kilometre. That only leaves the 2-litre TDI Touran models. Now, it's worth knowing that these must use an older tech 6-speed DSG auto gearbox, which will penalise your running costs by about 10%, so bear that in mind if you're considering the auto option. A manual shift 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel Touran manages 62.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 117 grams per kilometre of CO2. The rare, pricey and auto-only 2-litre TDI 190 PS flagship variant delivers 60.1 miles to the gallon and 123 grams per kilometre. What else? Well, of course, ultimately with efficiency a lot depends on the driver, who will benefit from much more than just the usual gear shift indicator to help improve frugality. If you've gone for a model fitted with the driver profile selection system, then you'll be offered a selectable eco setting that tweaks the engine, the air conditioning and other auxiliary systems for maximum efficiency. If your Touran has a DSG automatic gearbox, that eco mode will also activate a coasting function at cruising speeds, disconnecting the gearbox and leaving the engine to idle until you next need it. Across the range, the composition media infotainment system includes a Think Blue trainer in its car section, a display that gives you 3 circular dials graphically showing and scoring your recent driving efficiency on a scale of 0 to 100. Plus, there's a fuel consumption overview screen and the option of accessing a series of Think Blue fuel-saving tips, though to be frank, some of these are rather blindingly obvious. Things like think ahead when driving and drive in the highest possible gear. What else? Residual values? well, these should be stronger than just about anything in the class, bar the comparably priced BMW 2 Series Grand Touran. Quick Car Cost reckon that a 1.6 litre TDI Touran will be worth 30.48% of its original value after 3 years of use. That should go some way towards offsetting purchase pricing for this Touran that's slightly higher than the mainstream opposition. As for servicing, well, there's a fixed price package that covers the car for 3 years and 30,000 miles. This includes an oil change at 12 months or 10,000 miles, whichever is soonest, an interval service that includes an oil change at 24 months or 20,000 miles, and a full inspection service with oil and brake fluid changes at 36 months or 30,000 miles. In each case, parts and labour will be guaranteed for 2 years, and you'll be able to transfer the plan to a second owner should you sell your Touran during the period of cover. On to insurance. If you're looking at the base S specification, bear in mind that because this trim level doesn't include the front assist and city emergency braking electronic safety systems that you get further up the range, you'll pay more to insure your car. With the base 1.2 litre TSI petrol engine, that means Group 13E rather than the 11E rating that you'd have for SE or SE family trim. And with the 1.6 litre TDI diesel, an S model would be rated at Group 12E rather than the 9E or 10E ratings applied to the plusher trim levels. The 1.4 litre TSI petrol variants and all the 2 litre TDI 150 PS diesel models are rated at Group 17E, while the top 2 litre TDI 190 PS variant is 21E. And warranties? Well, the standard package is 3 years and 60,000 miles. We can't see why Volkswagen couldn't extend that mileage limit to 100,000 miles, since that's what you get on its mechanically very similar Caddy model. Doing that, though, wouldn't give Volkswagen dealers so much of an opportunity to sell extended warranty packages. There's one for 4 years and 75,000 miles, or if you plan to see a bit more of the world in your Touran, there's a 5-year 90,000 mile package. Whatever your decision, your car will come with 3 years of pan-European roadside assistance that has no mileage restriction. The paintwork warranty lasts for 3 years, and as you'd expect, this MPV is protected by a 12-year anti-corrosion package. This Touran has already established a strong following amongst growing families. All it really needed was a little more of a spark, both in the way it looked and performed. This improved version is about as far as Volkswagen is prepared to go in that direction, with sharper styling, even higher quality, and a range of more efficient engines. Plus, it's now about as spacious and practical as a car of this kind is ever going to get, though that's probably not the thing you'll remember most after extended acquaintance with this model. Instead, the beautifully crafted cabin and the segment-leading technology options are more likely to make you want one, provided you can stretch to the prices being asked. These are higher than mainstream branded opposition models. Still, buyers sold on this Touran's other virtues, things like a top-class safety ranking and a comfortable ride, will take solace in the fact that they'll be able to claw back much of that upfront premium with lower running costs and higher residual values. These people, though, are folk who would always have seriously considered this car. Whether it'll now have wider appeal in the compact 7-seat MPV sector is another question, of course. We think that buyers prepared to pay a little more for a sensibly orientated quality option in this segment might well find Touran motoring hard to resist. It's not an avant-garde choice, but it's a stylishly safe and clever one. There's a lot to be said for that.